call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello, Sonia. Oh, I'm doing just great. Just fighting the fight, living from day to day. Well, yeah, that is very good. I did hear that you were doing some classes and that you were doing very well, and I know your family's very proud of you. I am. And that's good. I've heard some things about the resources over there, that they're kind of limited and some of them are disappearing. But if you're making the effort, and I think this prison is at least trying, I'll give them credit for that. And then later on, we'll determine if it was worth it or if they're doing the right stuff. But I tell you, we have to keep on top of it because it's a correction center and it's supposed to help you gain some resources that you can use when you get out. Very similar to the military. People go into the military unexperienced, and they'll come out with some experience. Some of them high-tech experience, and then they can share that with their employer and with the community, and even in their personal life. And so if you develop a plan like that, I think your success rate will be greater when people get out. The people I've been working with do really well. And I know you're going to do well because you're right on the same track. They'll get in there and they'll take advantage of the resources, and they get out and they connect with people that can help them out. And I've had dozens of people do that. And the underlining thing, and this you know very well, is you've got to want this yourself. I can't force you into it. I can't motivate you into doing something like this, but you can. You have complete control over that. So if you want to succeed, set some goals and go for it. And as you know, there are millions of people in the United States who are successful. And success isn't necessarily determined by social media or your friends and family. Success is determined by you. And if you feel that you're doing what you want to do in life, and that could just be working at a low-wage job 6 days a week and, putting food on the table for your family. You consider that a success? Who's to argue? And happiness comes from within too. So if you're happy with the way your life is going, your relationship, and you're happy with your job, your status, nobody has a right to complain about it. And that's good. I'm glad, because that's going to motivate you. Being comfortable with the choices that you've made since you've been incarcerated is definitely going to help you when you get out here, because you need that self-confidence. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. You've got a fiance now? Okay, yeah. Your fiance adores you, and he's really looking forward to spending the rest of his life with you. And with that kind of support, yeah, I know. That's what they do to me. And I believe communication, especially with people on the outside, is key. There should be a law that bans any state agency from restricting
You have 60 seconds
communication with loved ones. No matter what, if you get an infraction and they want to impose a restriction on you, they shouldn't restrict you from communicating with people. Unless, of course, you're doing something illegal. And I don't think that's your case. But why they want to restrict people, I don't know. But I'm dealing with that on my own. But for now, you're able to talk with your fiance. You're able to talk with your family. And I know
you have 30 seconds
it has
remaining.
A positive effect on you. And when you get out, you'll be able to communicate a lot more. Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. So stay the course, fight the fight, and stay positive. Well, good. Well, thanks for the call, and you have yourself a wonderful day. Oh, yeah, I will. Okay, take care of yourself. Talk to you later.
Thank you for using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
Hello, my name is Joel Wilborn, and you are listening to AQS Inmate Call. And I do appreciate you listening in on this, and hopefully I can share some information that can be useful to you rather than just a waste of your time, and that together we can make some changes in the penal system, get people out of prison back into society where they can be productive. I know in the United States they're talking about immigration and having people working in the fields and working jobs that Americans don't want to work. People who are sitting in prison could be doing those jobs. They could be helping us to be a more productive country and a more open and sharing country, but they're sitting in prison. And so maybe we can get those folks out to work, pay taxes, and be productive to society and share their experiences so that one, maybe more, people won't do it. In this episode, I'm particularly interested in communication with loved ones. I believe the Department of Corrections in any state should be forbidden from cutting off communication with the outside world. There are people in prison who are just feeling down. Now, I remember I went to a graduation ceremony for some people who had gone through a technical program. And one of the women up there, she said she hated living in her skin. But the instructor for this program motivated her. And she was able to gain self-confidence. And she had the drive to make it through the course and to feel good about herself. And that's what we're looking for. And they had a person that came in from the construction industry, and she said there's a lot of people who want to hire women, but there aren't a lot of skilled women to apply. Well, after graduating from this course, these women could get into construction, and a lot of them did. And there's plenty of them. You can see them on news articles and reports that will get out of prison, go into these construction jobs, and they're quite happy and quite successful. And that's all because they focused on something that was helpful to them. And to get that kind of support means a lot, because it's traumatic to get caught. It's traumatic to spend a long time sitting in prison. And it's traumatic to actually be in a prison, especially one like the Washington Correction Center for Women, because they don't protect the women in there like they should. In the men's prison, men can pretty much look out for themselves. And this is not a sexist thing. That's just the way society looks at it. And these guys, they're used to going out and making the best of what they got and being supportive. The women, on the other hand, they are looked at as the weaker sex. And that's the way the Department of Corrections sees them. They're not the weaker sex because they offer as much to society as the men. But the way that the penal system in the state of Washington works, these women are just vulnerable. And I would say if they're going to use that kind of mentality toward them, we should play on it. Because women's prison is the most expensive between the two, the men and the women. And they require more medical, they require more counseling, because a lot of them have children. And being separated from a child is very hard on a woman. And in the men's prison, the same thing, being separated from a child. And a way they could overcome this, both men and women's prison, is to allow people to communicate with the outside. The outside should be able to communicate with the people who are incarcerated, and the incarcerated should be able to communicate with the people on the outside. Why? What would go through their mind and make them think that if a person is caught with contraband in their room, they shouldn't be talking to somebody for 6 months? Why is that going to help? Mentally, it's going to be devastating. A woman who can't talk to her daughter, a man who can't talk to his wife. How is this going to be helpful in any way? If you have a teenager and the teenager, let's say, runs away from home, and then the police call you and say they found their teenager, and you go and pick up the teenager, you might want to find out why this teenager ran away. And then, but to say you're going to have to stay in your room for 6 months and not talk to anybody, I don't even think that would be a consideration of yours for a punishment. And when these people are released out into society, what are they going to do? Are they going to be resentful that this happened? Are they going to be vindictive? Are they going to be a better person? The name of these facilities includes corrections. Corrections means that they're working to help these people get back into society with little to no repeat offenses. And communication, just simply sitting and talking with people, has a huge effect on folks. You don't have to be a professional in the mental wellness field to know that socializing can have many positive effects. So when I'm trying to communicate with my fiance and the Washington Correction Center for Women decides they're going to shut me down and shut me down from talking to anybody out there, I kind of wonder, who are you punishing here? I've got my huge circle of friends. I can talk, I can hang out, I can go out and do things. I'm fine on the outside world. There's nothing the Department of Corrections can do that will punish me. So if this is out to like, you've been a bad person, we're going to punish you, it's not working. But it hurts the people that are in there, because they'll ask me to get in contact with their loved one. Will you let my brother know something? Or will you help me find an attorney? Or they're really treating me bad here, and I hate it, and thank you for letting me vent. I mean, I'm just an ear. They'll call me and they just let it off their chest. I don't know who else they could do that with, especially if there's not a lot of people picking up the phone on the outside world. But it's just a simple thing that I do. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying this that when people get out, that's what they tell me. So I didn't do anything. How are you doing? Well, why do you appreciate my support with you? And that's what I hear. You were there. I called, you answered, you listened, you worked with me to get issues resolved. That's my claim to fame. So blocking me from them is not a punishment to me. And it's not helping them, because now that they don't have anybody to vent to, that aggression could come out inmate to inmate, on the staff. I just don't get it. I don't understand how the Department of Corrections works. And when I ask, why are you doing this? I don't get an answer. And the reason people don't answer is because they're hiding something. And, if let's say I asked the question, what color is the sky? And the answer was blue. And then I ask it again, what color is the sky? And the answer is blue. And then I ask again, what color is the sky? And then they just said, you know what, I've already answered this. I'm not going to keep on answering it. That, to me, that's not helping anything. Because if a person continuously asks something, it could be a medical issue. This person might not have a very good memory. Or the person could be trying to make a point. But you want to find out what's going on. There's another step that's involved. So I know they're not being ridiculous and not answering my questions because they've already answered it. I'm not asking it because they've already answered it. I'm asking it because I want to know. I want to move on. I want to continue my process. And I'll ask them questions like, why are you doing this? And I don't get answers. So I have to go to other resources. And for me, that's good because I'm learning something and I'm building my supportive relationships, and it's helping the people. Now I have to do other means because there's folks in there that really want to talk to me. They really need my assistance. And I'm going to keep on doing that. They're still able to talk to their family. I work with supportive relationships. So I can do this. It's just I don't understand why they want to go through that effort, why they want to block people. Now, here's what I discovered about the email service over there. Now, I started out writing letters and phone calls. This was back in the 80s. Then we got to email. So in the 21st century, I started using email to communicate with people, and JPay was the first. And JPay was good because you can send pictures, and you could send money, and you could send the emails. You can get pictures, and you could get emails from the people that were incarcerated. And then I was running into some issues with JPay, and I started calling customer service quite a bit, got a few hang-ups and stuff. But then I had people who didn't know how to set up the JPay account. And they would ask me, would you call my mother? And she's having trouble setting up JPay. Could you help her? And I was doing this over and over and over. So I put a video on my YouTube channel on how to set up a JPay account. And then when I got requests, could you talk to my mother? I would send her a link to the video. And then other folks got word of it, and they would send their family these links. And so the video was getting good views, and it's helping, and it was easier for me. And then they blocked me from JPay, and they give different reasons every time I ask. At least they're answering, and then they just stopped. So one of the rules of human nature is if the answer changes, then it's a lie. And the truth is constant. Facts are constant. They don't change. So to tell me different things and vague things is a sign that they're covering something up. And as a prison advocate, my job is to uncover stuff, to expose stuff. Social media, you guys, the audience, is an excellent way to expose what's going on in there. Otherwise, they wouldn't know. So with JPay, they were telling me that I was opening up multiple accounts or something. So I called JPay and recorded it. And that's on my YouTube channel as well, JPay Answers. And I asked, how many accounts can you have? And she said, as many as you want. There's no limit. So to tell me that I was violating the JPay user agreement by opening up multiple accounts, that was a bull-faced lie. And the policy that relates to e-messaging and mail refers people to the user agreement of the contracted email service. And they kept telling me, your email is blocked, or your JPay is blocked. Not the email, but your JPay is blocked because you violated the user agreement, which is not true. So I'd ask, what part of the user agreement did I violate? And I don't get an answer on that. So yeah, it's a lie. And I've been trying that for years. But then JPay switched to Securus. And I had to open up a Securus account so I could do video visits and talk to people in some of the county jails. And so I've had a Securus account for a long time. So I would use JPay. They blocked my JPay. I've been trying year after year, trying to get them to answer it. They won't because they can do whatever they want. But soon that's gonna change though. But right now, I just have to keep fighting it because I don't accept their explanation. But they blocked my JPay, which blocks JPay all across the country, so I couldn't talk to anybody else in the other states. And I'd ask the other states, and they said, no, we didn't block you. I'm not restricted from those states, but the Washington Department of Corrections has the power to block me from speaking to other people in other states. Violation of freedom of speech? I think so. But these guys, they're gods. They can do whatever they want. And I'm telling you this because if you run into that problem, you're not alone. So, going back to this. They switched over to Securus. I already had a Securus account. So one day, after many years of using Securus, they blocked that. So I asked, why did you block it? Oh, you violated multiple policies and blah, blah, blah. Well, why didn't you tell me? Their policy is very clear. They don't have the best worded policies out there, but in college, I minored in English writing, and I specialized in writing technical reports and in instructions. I really like that kind of stuff. So I would read through all of the JPay user agreement. I'd read through all of the Securus user agreement. Securus will terminate an account, suspend an account, and it could be for different reasons. Examples they used is maybe I would say, I want this account terminated, or law enforcement would call them up and say, terminate this account. And Securus is real personal about this. They're not going to allow outside forces to control their company. They're out to make money just like any other U.S. company. And they offer phone, video, email, text messaging. So there's many services they offer across the United States. And there's even international. I've had several people that would call me up and say, I haven't been able to contact Brazil. How do I do that? And since I had this how-to video on Securus and how-to video on JPay, they would ask me. And so I would look into it and get it. So I got pretty good with Securus, got pretty good with JPay. I like the way that Securus owns its own company. Securus has the power to terminate an account and will do it if the need arises. DOC does not have a right to terminate or suspend a Securus account. It's not in the user agreement. So if they do that, they're violating the user agreement. And they can't refer it back to anybody else because this is the Securus user agreement. JPay user agreement, Securus user agreement are different. JPay, DOC can cancel it. And they'll actually say blocked. And you call them, yeah, the DOC said it was blocked. Securus, no. You pretty much have to have an act of Congress to get Securus to shut down. So I wrote, asked why my Securus account was blocked, why I couldn't contact anybody. When a person sent a message to me, it came back and said that I was suspended and I was using a fake name or something like that. I don't know. I didn't get that message. They did. They didn't tell me what it was. So I asked. The Deputy Assistant Secretary Joe Wolford, contacted me and said all this stuff about mail and fund accounts and more was a word that she used. I was just this terrible person, and that my Securus account would continue to be terminated. No, Joe Wolford. You cannot terminate a Securus account. And in the state of Washington, when a state official sends out a false statement like that, a misdemeanor, it's against the law. And so I need detail. What part of this user agreement did I violate? What right do you have? I ask these questions and I get general statements. I don't accept those anymore. I'm trying to get to the end of this. I'm engaged to a woman over there I can't even talk to. The paperwork is sitting on the desk of Superintendent Charlotte Headley, who can just sign a sheet and I can go down there and get married. I can perform. They are obligated by the law, by the state of Washington, to provide a marriage ceremony. They cannot support the marriage or they cannot oppose the marriage. If I go through the process and I'm approved, which I have been, I have a right to a ceremony. If there's a restraining order and they block me from visiting, which is a very good reason to block a person from visiting, then I could do a virtual ceremony. Well, by blocking me from Securus, allegedly, and by blocking me from visiting, it's going to be very difficult for me to have the ceremony. I'm curious how they're going to do that. How are they going to fulfill their obligation, allow me to have the marriage ceremony and get this marriage out of the way, which I'm waiting on, and then block every means to do it? Is that a coincidence? Is that something that's designed to punish me because I'm exposing their silliness? Or is that something to punish my fiance? Do they think this is going to help the mental state of my fiance or me? I don't know. And I'll never get these answers because they feel they don't have to answer them. Now, the Washington Correction Center for Women, fentanyl was smuggled in there. There's been people that's been having sex with transgender people. And from what I hear, if an incarcerated person is caught having sex, maybe with another incarcerated person or with a staff member or something like this, these people go to the hole, which was eliminated a few years ago. But these guys have brought it back. And so now instead of a place to put people that have medical situations going on, maybe like COVID or flu or something, and they need to be isolated, instead of SEG being for that, they got the hole to put them in there isolated from everybody because they had sex and were caught. I'm kind of wondering how that's going to help anything, what that's supposed to mean. But the reason they got rid of the hole is because it's considered cruel and unusual punishment. And they went to court and got rid of it. Like I said, Washington Correction Center for Women can do whatever it wants because we allow them to get away with it. Blocking me and I don't know, punishing me isn't going to help because there's people like you that tune in that want to hear this stuff and you want to share it. And I've even had folks say, be careful, you could wind up dead. I don't know if the Department of Corrections would wind up killing somebody, but there's always going to be somebody out there. So you can even look in history. Assassinating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't stop the movement. Matter of fact, it just rallied around people. And the attempted assassination of Donald Trump didn't stop his run for presidency. It didn't slow anything down. So they do this kind of stuff thinking it's going to work, but there's no historical proof that it does. And with social media, it's great because it's going to get out there. And that's what we need to do. We need to share this information. We need to get it out there. Now, just to sum it all up, JPay and Securus are contractors that we pay. We pay for their service. Securus wants our business. And so if I buy stamps and send emails to people that's incarcerated, they get money. If I load up their media account or their phone account, Securus gets money. Securus is struggling. They're on the verge of bankruptcy. So every penny counts to them. And they're already under the Federal Communications Commission restrictions because they're tapping into their excessive funds and fees that that's coming out of this service. Frankly, I think the service should be free, but we're paying for it, which gives a little extra edge. We should get better quality phone calls. And if you've listened to some of the actual phone calls I've had on my YouTube channel, they're kind of spotty, and that's Securus. And so we need to open up this communication. We need to get laws out there that will not allow people to restrict communication unless there's certain circumstances. If there's a legal matter, okay. But just because a person was caught having sex with their roommate, no. And the only way to stop this from happening or to make the changes is to broadcast it to you guys. That's why I really appreciate you listening in and discussing this. It gets the word out there. So be wary of these DOC officials and their false sense of immunity, that they can do whatever they want, nobody can come after them. And I'm telling you right now, Assistant or Deputy Assistant Secretary Joe Woodford violates state law. And Superintendent Charlotte Headley is a terrible superintendent. There's been some extraordinary things happening under her leadership over there, and restoring the whole is one of them. And blocking people's accounts without telling them that, like, is required under policy, it just goes to show that they think they can do whatever they want. We have a new governor that will take office we have a new person who will take office next year to be the governor of the state of Washington. I worked with him as Attorney General, and he's great. I really enjoyed working with him. I'm looking forward to working with him as governor. He's already reassigned Secretary of the Department of Corrections. She was the Secretary of the DSHS. She was in charge of that. And when I was doing foster parenting, I worked with her, and she was great in that position. Not so much in the Department of Corrections. She's terrible. So I hope the person that he assigns to replace her will be more in tune of what people need to correct criminal behavior and to end recidivism. But we shall see. I will be constant watcher for this new appointee. I will diligently keep an eye on the activities. That much I do. Well, thanks for tuning in again, and have yourself a magnificent day, and go out and make stellar memories for tomorrow.